Hello, all praise to Jesus Christ, the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. So just continuing on from the last video, I didn't have enough time to read what I was intending to read, so I'm just going to read a bit from Lamentations. This will probably be a shorter video. I recommend reading the whole book of Lamentations. It's only 5 chapters long, and it's quite interesting. So in the last video, I read Jeremiah 50 and 51, and a bit of 52. And it's a confusing part of the Bible, I would say. To me, it's confusing because it definitely seems to be referring to the historical Babylon part of the time, and it definitely seems to be referring to a later Babylon as well. And as we've read in some of the other parts of the Bible, there definitely seem to be a lot of parallels between the mystery Babylon described in Revelation 17 and 18 and Jerusalem as described in the Old Testament. And so Lamentations is another bit where it seems like Jerusalem is being described in a way that's similar to Mystery Babylon. So after this, I will do a more of a deeper analysis. It's a difficult topic to get into because there's so much of the Bible and there's so many confusing things. So I'll do a video where I just concentrate more, or at least one video, possibly multiple, where I concentrate more on analysis and comparing verses directly between Revelation 17 and 18 and the Old Testament. But yeah, just laying out the final bit of groundwork. I think this is probably it before we can start getting into the deeper analysis. So Lamentations 1. How doth the city sit solitary that was full of people? How she is become a widow, she that was she was great among the nations, and princess among the provinces. How she became tributary. She weepeth sore in the night, her tears are on her cheeks. Among all her lovers she hath none to comfort her. All her friends have dealt treacherously with her, they are become her enemies. Judah is gone into captivity because of affliction, and because of great servitude. She dwelleth among the heathen, she findeth no rest at all. All her persecutors overtook her between the straits. The ways of Zion do mourn, because none can come to the solemn feasts. All her gates are desolate, her priests sigh, her virgins are afflicted, and she is in bitterness. Her adversaries are the chief, her enemies prosper. For the Lord hath afflicted her for the multitude of her transgressions. Her children are gone into captivity before the enemy. And from the daughter of Zion all her beauty is departed. Her princes are become like harts that find no pasture, and they are gone without strength before the pursuer. Jerusalem remembered in the days of her affliction, and of her miseries all her pleasant things that she had in the days of old, when her people fell into the hand of the enemy, and none did help her. The adversaries saw her, and did mock at her Sabbaths. Jerusalem hath grievously sinned, therefore she is removed. All that honoured her despise her, because they have seen her nakedness. Yea, she sighed, and turned backwards. Her filthiness is in her skirts, she remembered not her last end. Therefore she came down wonderfully, she had no comforter. O Lord, behold my affliction, for the enemy hath magnified himself. The adversary hath spread out his hands upon all her pleasant things, for she hath seen that the heathen entered into her sanctuary, whom thou didst command that they should not enter into thy congregation. All her people sigh, they seek bread, they have given their pleasant things for meat to relieve the soul. See, O Lord, and consider, for I am become vile. Is it nothing to you, all ye that pass by? Behold, and see if there be any sorrow, like unto my sorrow, which is done unto me, wherewith the Lord hath afflicted me in the day of his fierce anger. From above hath he sent fire into my bones, and it prevailed against them. He hath spread a net for my feet, he hath turned me back, he hath made me desolate and faint all the day. The yoke of my transgressions is bound by his hand. They are wreathed, and they come upon my neck. He hath made my strength to fall. The Lord hath delivered me into their hands, from whom I am not able to rise up. The Lord hath trodden under foot all my mighty men in the midst of me. He hath called an assembly against me to crush my young men. The Lord hath trodden the virgin, the daughter of Judah, as in a winepress. For these things I weep. Mine eye runneth down with water, because the Comforter that should relieve my soul is far from me. My children are desolate, because the enemy prevailed. Zion spreadeth forth her hands, there is none to comfort her. The Lord hath commanded concerning Jacob, that his adversaries should be round about him. Jerusalem is as a menstruous woman among them. The Lord is righteous, for I have rebelled against this commandment. Hear, I pray you, all people, and behold my sorrow. My virgins and my young men are gone into captivity. I called for my lovers, but they deceived me. My priests and mine elders gave up the ghost in the city, while they sought their meat to relieve their souls. Behold, O Lord, for I am in distress. My bowels are troubled. Mine heart is turned within me, for I have grievously rebelled. Abroad the sword bereaveth, at home there is as death. For they have heard that I sigh. There is none to comfort me. All mine enemies have heard of my trouble. They are glad that thou hast done it. Thou wilt bring the day that thou hast called, and they shall be like unto me. Let all their wickedness come before thee, and do unto them as thou hast done unto me, for all my transgressions. For my sighs are many, and my heart is faint. So this is Jeremiah talking about, lamenting Jerusalem. It's pretty full on, really. Like, you can see if this was happening back in the day, this was happening back then. If he was feeling this back then, and it seems like the Lord did forsake Jerusalem, at least for a time. So these passages here contribute to the evidence that suggests that Mystery Babylon is Jerusalem, or at least in some way Jerusalem. Because the people in Israel at the moment, they're not exactly following God, and they haven't exactly accepted Jesus as their Messiah, like the nation of Israel hasn't. How hath the Lord covered the daughter of Zion with a cloud of his anger, and cast down from heaven unto the earth the beauty of Israel, and remembered not his footstool in the day of his anger. The Lord hath swallowed up the inhabitants of Jacob, and hath not pitied. He hath thrown down in his wrath the strongholds of the daughter of Judah. He hath brought them down to the ground. He hath polluted the kingdom and the princes thereof. He hath cut off in his fierce anger all the horn of Israel. He hath drawn back his right hand from before the enemy. And he hath burned against Jacob like a flaming fire, which devoureth round about. He hath bent his bow like an enemy. He stood with his right hand as an adversary, and slew all that were pleasant to the eye in the tabernacle of the daughter of Zion. He poured out his fury like fire. The Lord was an enemy. He hath swallowed up Israel. He hath swallowed up all her palaces. He hath destroyed his strongholds. He hath increased in the daughter of Judah mourning and lamentation. He hath violently taken away his tabernacle, as if it were of a garden. He hath destroyed his palaces of the assembly. The Lord hath caused the solemn feasts and Sabbaths to be forgotten in Zion, and hath despised in the indignation of his anger the king and the priest. The Lord hath cast off his altar. He hath abhorred his sanctuary. He hath given up into the hand of the enemy the walls of her palaces. They have made a noise in the house of the Lord, as in the day of a solemn feast. The Lord hath purposed to destroy the wall of the daughter of Zion. He hath stretched out a line. He hath not withdrawn his hand from destroying. Therefore he made the rampart and the wall to lament. They languished together. Her gates are sunk into the ground. He hath destroyed and broken her bars. Her king and her princes are among the Gentiles. The law is no more. Her prophets also find no vision from the Lord. The elders of the daughter of Zion sit upon the ground and keep silence. They have cast up dust upon their heads. They have girded themselves with sackcloth. The virgins of Israel hang down their heads to the ground. Mine eyes do fail with tears. My bowels are troubled. My liver is poured upon the earth, for the destruction of the daughter of my people, because the children of the sucklings swoon in the streets of the city. They say to their mothers, Where is corn and wine? When they swooned as the wounded in the streets of the city, when their soul was poured out into their mother's bosom. What things shall I take witness for thee? What things shall I liken to thee, O daughter of Jerusalem? What shall I equal to thee, that I may comfort thee, O virgin daughter of Zion? For thy breach is great, like the sea. Who can heal thee? Thy prophets have seen vain and foolish things for thee. They have not discovered thine iniquity, to turn away thy captivity, but have seen for thee false burdens and causes of banishment. All that pass by clap their hands at thee. They hiss and wag their head at the daughter of Jerusalem, saying, Is this the city that men call the perfection of beauty, the joy of the whole earth? All thine enemies have opened their mouth against thee. They hiss and gnash their teeth. They say, We have swallowed her up. Certainly this is the day we looked for, and we have found, and we have seen it. The Lord hath done that which he hath devised. He hath fulfilled his word that he commanded in the days of old. He hath thrown down, he hath not pitied. He hath caused thine enemy to rejoice over thee. He hath set up the horn of thine adversaries. Their heart cried unto the Lord, O wall of the daughter of Zion. Let tears run down like a river day and night. Give thyself no rest. Let not the apple of thine eye cease. Arise, cry out in pain. In the beginning of the watches, pour out thine heart like water before the face of the Lord. Lift up thy hands toward him for the life of thy young children that faint for hunger on the top of the street, and the top of every street. Behold, O Lord, and consider to whom thou hast done this. Shall the woman eat their fruit, and children of a span long? Shall the priest and the prophet be slain in the sanctuary of the Lord? The young and the old lie on the ground in the streets. My virgins and my young men are fallen by the sword. Thou hast slain them in the day of thine anger. Thou hast killed and not pitied. Thou hast called as in a solemn day my terrors round about. So in the day of the Lord's anger none escaped, nor remained. Those that I have swaddled and brought up hath mine eye consumed. So I recommend reading the whole book of Lamentations, and just to keep things briefer, I'm going to just read a bit from chapter 4 now. But the whole thing's worth reading with regard to this topic. But yeah, this will end it off now, chapter 4, and then I'll go and edit these videos, and then I'll sit down and try to figure out exactly what's going on here. It'll probably take me a few days, but so here we go. Lamentations 4. How is the gold become dim? How is the most fine gold changed? The stones of the sanctuary are poured out in the top of every street. The precious sons of Zion, comparable to fine gold. How are they esteemed as earthen pitchers, the work of the hands of the potter? Even the sea monsters draw out the breast. They give suck to their young ones. The daughter of my people is become cruel, like the ostriches in the wilderness. The tongue of the suckling child cleaveth to the roof of his mouth for thirst. The young children ask bread, and no man breaketh it unto them. They that did feed delicately are desolate in the streets. They that were brought up in scarlet embrace dunghills. For the punishment of the iniquity of the daughter of my people is greater than the punishment of the sin of Sodom, that was overthrown as in a moment. No hand stayed on her. Her Nazarites were purer than snow. They were whiter than milk. They were more ruddy in body than rubies. Their polishing was of sapphire. Their visage is blacker than a coal. They are not known in the streets. Their skin cleaveth to their bones. It is withered. It is become like a stick. They that be slain with the sword are better than they that be slain with hunger. For these pine away, stricken through for want of the fruits of the field. The hands of the pitiful women have soddened their own children. They were their meat in the destruction of the daughter of my people. The Lord hath accomplished his fury. He hath poured out his fierce anger, and hath kindled a fire in Zion, and it hath devoured the foundations thereof. The kings of the earth and all the inhabitants of the world would not have believed that the adversary and the enemy should have entered into the gates of Jerusalem. For the sins of her prophets and the iniquities of her priests that have shed the blood of the just in the midst of her. They have wandered as blind men in the streets. They have polluted themselves with blood, so that men could not touch their garments. So that's pretty much all I wanted to read, and there may be some other things that are relevant to the identity of Mystery Babylon, but I can't read the entire Bible. So we'll make our argument from thenceforth, going forward, and I intend to go and match up verses, and because I think there's a lot of things that match Mystery Babylon. There are some things that don't, Jerusalem being Mystery Babylon. There are some things that don't match, and I'll see if I can figure out, you think about things too, but my intention is to try to figure out what's going on here and see if I can come to a definitive answer, because even though there seems to be a lot of evidence to suggest that Jerusalem is Mystery Babylon, and even though I've put that title in my videos, I want to be 100% certain, and if I'm wrong, I want to say that I'm wrong. So that's where I'm going to go moving forward. Take it easy. May Jesus bless you and lead you to the truth. Amen.